Did you know that one of the most amazing discoveries that has ever happened, at least in the past couple of hundred years, happened a little over 70 years ago? And what was that amazing discovery? That discovery gives evidence and new details about the accuracy of the Word of God, and specifically, we're going to look at the book of Daniel in this quick flyover. So let's dig in. Hey, it's Greg Rooney here from Connect the Dots, See the Big Picture, where we help you make sense of everything going on more clearly through a better understanding of the Bible by connecting the dots from the Old Testament to the New Testament. Yes, in the caves in the southern part of Israel, in a very arid part of Israel by the Dead Sea, in an area known as Qumran, in the caves of Qumran were discovered scrolls dating back to almost 2,200 years ago. And there was hundreds of scrolls discovered containing numerous books of the Bible that we read today. So hang on till the end of this video, and I'll let you know how you can get your own copy of the Dead Sea Scrolls for yourself. We're going to take a look at the book of Daniel very briefly, but we're going to take a look at specifically one of the prophecies that Daniel wrote about in chapter 2, and that was when he interpreted a dream of King Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king of Babylon in 605 BC. He had a dream, and he asked all of his attendants, his astrologers, his magicians, to interpret this dream for him. And actually, he was so committed to wanting to know what this meant, he threatened all of them. If they didn't do this, he was going to kill them all. So let's take a look at this dream. Give you a quick background. Now, this prophecy or this dream was concerning 4 Gentile empires that would dominate the world and dominate Israel. And the prophet Daniel wrote about that in the book of Daniel in the 6th century BC. And how did Daniel end up in Babylon? Well, the Babylonians deported Daniel to their capital city in 605 BC, and Daniel was probably a teenager and was a young man at that point in time, but he excelled, and his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego excelled and were appointed to the king's court as his counselors. Now, you're probably familiar with the book of Daniel from stories like Daniel in the lion's den, that's in chapter 6, and also Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were put in the fiery furnace, and other stories, but this is chapter 2, where Daniel wrote about the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had. Now, to back up what I said earlier about the Dead Sea Scrolls, a manuscript of the book of Daniel was found in cave number 4 at Qumran in 1948. And this discovery and several others rocked the world. There's actually over 900 pieces or parts of scrolls from the Bible that have been discovered in these caves. And it's interesting. Most all of these scrolls confirm the biblical text that we read today. Now back to Daniel and King Nebuchadnezzar. Now Babylon, which is Iraq today, or Babylonia, was the most powerful and wealthy kingdom in the Middle East. Now one night, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. And that dream really got Nebuchadnezzar's attention. So Daniel's now going to explain the dream, and you're going to see it is a statue with 4 parts. And each one of those parts, we now know, 2,600 years removed, is describing a Gentile kingdom. That's a non-Jewish kingdom that is going to rule the earth. And we're going to break that down and show you. And I have a short video here that's going to give you an example of what this statue looked like. And we'll talk about each part and how that's been fulfilled through history. And at the end of this video, I'll give you some links so you can research and the historical information and find out that these 4 kingdoms, the Babylonian kingdom, the Medes and the Persians, and the Greeks, and of course the Roman Empire, all 4 of those Gentile empires are what Daniel's going to describe to Nebuchadnezzar regarding this statue is a representation of those 4 kingdoms. So let's dig into this. And he goes on to tell the king, he says, "In your vision, your majesty, you saw standing before you a huge shining statue of man. It was a frightening sight. The head of the statue was made of fine gold, and its chest and arms were silver. Its belly and thighs were bronze, its legs were iron, and its feet were a combination of iron and baked clay. As you watched, a rock was cut from a mountain, but not by human hands. And this rock struck the feet of this iron and clay, smashing it to bits. And the whole statue was crushed into small pieces of iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold. Then the wind blew them away without a trace, like chaff on a threshing floor. But the rock that knocked the statue down became a great mountain that covered the whole earth. Now, there's some interesting details about this rock we won't go into now, but we will discuss that on another Unlocking Prophecy video, so be watching for that. Here's what happened. All four of these kingdoms came into existence just like the prophet Daniel wrote 2,600 years ago. And the Dead Sea Scrolls confirmed that in the scroll of Daniel. It reads virtually identical to the book of Daniel that you and I read today. So I encourage you to read this chapter, take it to heart. A lot of historical evidence, a lot of archaeological evidence that proves this out. Again, fully almost 1/3 of the Bible is prophetic. And there's been literally hundreds of prophecies fulfilled with 100% accuracy. And these prophecies of these four kingdoms has come to pass via historical and archaeological evidence. And that coming kingdom, the one that was made from a stone without human hands, is coming as well, as the Lord returns for his church and his people and sets up his kingdom at the end of that tribulation period. And as promised, in the description below will be links to how you can get a copy of the Dead Sea Scrolls for yourself. There's been collaboration with the Antiquities in Israel to share this valuable find with the world. And also there'll be some links to additional resources and different sites where you can discover and actually see how the story of the Dead Sea Scrolls and how amazing it is.